Hey, yo, what is going on, you guys? Tucker here, bringing you a brand new video today. Yesterday, we just had the OTA, and with the OTA, it brought some pretty big changes. All of the Guardians cards now get +4. And you know what that means? It's time to bring out the old reliable W Guardians deck. We've tweaked it up just a little bit, and we're going to be showcasing that today. I'm super excited. W's a good friend of mine, so it's always a pleasure to be able to play one of his lists. But let's get right into the deck. Here is the deck for you guys. Today we're going to be having Juggernaut in this list instead of Mr. Fantastic, who was originally in this list, and then we are using Star-Lord after he got a buff to, instead of having +3, getting +4 now, instead of Medusa. And then deck code, as always, will be down in the description below. And then let's go through why we have certain cards in this list, starting off with Nebula. Nebula, of course, is a nice control card, making your opponent have to play on her lane in order for her not to get that +2 power. Of course, she also works really well with Guardians. She's a Guardians of the Galaxy card, so the synergy just makes sense. Playing a Star-Lord on top of a Nebula, of course, gives you that +4 to Star-Lord if your opponent plays a card there. You're, of course, going to storm that lane as well to lock in that Nebula to get that additional power on 5 and 6. Only way your opponent can get in there with a Jeff. So Nebula, more often than not, is going to go from a 1-1 to like a 1-5 with the potential to be like a 1-7 or a 1-9, which gets kind of scary. Of course, we have Daredevil in this list too. Daredevil, honestly, is one of the main engines of this list, enabling you to know what you should play on 5, whether it is a Gamora, whether it is a Professor X to lock your opponent out of a lane, whether it's you need to play a Guardians card that's a little bit smaller, like you play your Star-Lord on top of there, use your Jeff to move into a lane. Turn 5 is so pivotal, so using that to enable yourself to set up turn 6 is really good, and Daredevil is that card right there that just allows you to do all those things. Star-Lord is one of those cards that actually got touched in the OTA. Star-Lord used to be a +3 if your opponent played a card here. Now he is a +4. That's why we have swapped him in instead of Medusa. Medusa, of course, you can only play in the middle to get her additional value to be a 2-5. Star-Lord, of course, you can only get his value if an opponent plays a card on the location. But with Nebula, you're able to kind of see that your opponent is going to want to play a card there to make sure Nebula doesn't go up in power. And, of course, with Daredevil, if you don't have a Gamora, you can use your Star-Lord to get that +4 instead. Jeff is another great card we have in this list. This enables you to be able to get into your Professor X lane. It allows you to get into your Storm lane. It allows you to get into any other location where you're not able to place cards by themselves. A very functional card, too. One of the best 2-drops, if not arguably the best 2-drop in the game, maybe behind Zabu, just at the moment. But Jeff is really great, allowing you to be able to also take priority since you can move him wherever you'd like, so you can get that turn 6 Goliath off. Very good card, very functional. If you don't have Jeff, I would suggest using Nightcrawler. Storm. Storm is going to be one of your control cards, allowing you to control a lane, so your opponent's unable to play on it. Lock in your Nebula, so your opponent cannot stop your Nebula from going in power. Being able to have a 50-50 kind of aspect, actually, with your Professor X on a later turn because your opponent can't play on that other lane you lock down with Storm. Very fantastic card and very well used in the control list. Allows you to be able to get some of these Miss Marvel interactions off, too, playing a Doom later. Fantastic card. If you're playing control, you already know you're going to see Storm in these lists. So here's like our flex spot here. I have Juggernaut in this list in order to move cards off a location. It also may allow you to be able to get some priority later on in the game, kind of like a Plan B kind of card. If you're not a fan of Juggernaut, you could also put in Mr. Fantastic, or since you are locking lanes down, you could get some value with Cannonball. Cannonball's a little bit pricey for this flexible spot, so I wanted more of a mid-range card here. So that's why I use Juggernaut. But so my flex I'd probably do would either be Juggernaut or Mr. Fantastic, maybe another 2-drop, or maybe like a Nightcrawler. But that's probably the go-to I would do if you didn't want to run Juggernaut. I think Cannonball's a little bit pricey, but Cannonball still is pretty solid and another good hit for Iron Lad. Miss Marvel, our favorite recent season pass card. Maybe after Hope. Miss Marvel is a fantastic card that you can use in your control list since you have Doom to enable you to be able to get onto a Storm lane. Let's say you don't have your Nebula down on Storm, and then it allows you to get that +5 power on adjacent locations. So playing Miss Marvel in the middle is going to give you your maximum value. The difference is you, of course, going to have to play 2 cards that have different cost values on the left and the right of her to be able to maximize her value. So Miss Marvel can be either an early game play to be able to have priority into turn 6, or it can be a late game play in order to kind of sneak some of these locations with your different costs that you're going to be playing as well. Iron Lad is one of your other engines that I was talking about in this list. Another fantastic card that copies the text of your next card that would be coming into your hand. That's what your top card is in your deck. Iron Lad pretty much hits all great things in this list. But Daredevil still gives you great intel if you're playing an Iron Lad on 4, allowing you to be able to showcase what your opponent's going to be playing on 5. Nebula, your opponent then will normally forget what Iron Lad is and have to plan around that, because even if Iron Lad hits Nebula on turn 4, Iron Lad can turn into a 4-10 if your opponent just forgets about it, or a 4-8, because you're not going to be expecting Iron Lad to hit a Nebula there. If it hits a Doom, absolutely fantastic. You get an early Doom out, so you get an early 16 power instead of 15 power on one turn. Miss Marvel, it allows you to be able to have another Miss Marvel to be able to play later for your adjacent locations, which is absolutely phenomenal as well. Jeff, so you can move into other locations. Like, Iron Lad just has so much flexibility in this list. So him hitting pretty much any card is going to be a good hit. So that's why we have Iron Lad in this list as well. Of course, we got Professor X, another fantastic control card, enabling you to lock in your cards and your opponent's cards as a 5-cost card. Something you can plan around with Daredevil in order to maximize the value. So you can potentially have priority going into turn 6. Just lock your opponent out of a play they may be trying to do to set up for turn 6. Of course, you have Jeff in this list to be able to move into your Professor X, so you're not completely locked out of yourself. You can lock your Nebula in there so your opponent can't play in there. And with the synergy with the Miss Marvel too, if you have Jeff, that's 2 cards on the Professor X lane to get that +5 power, which is also very sneaky, and your opponent may not think about that as well. But he's a very fantastic and one of those standard control cards you see in your lists. Now we have Gamora, another card that got adjusted with the OTA. She did get a slight base power buff. She only gets +4 now with her on reveal if an opponent played a card here, but still gets back to that 5-12 with that on reveal interaction. At a 5-8, it's better for if she does whiff. 5-8 is, of course, another solid stat line for cards overall. So even if you may whiff with a Gamora, you can still set yourself up to have priority going into turn 6. So you're able to get off your Alioth or get off your Doom so you can dodge an Alioth. So she's another fantastic card. Synergizes really, really well with Daredevil, really, really well with Nebula. And it's another kind of card that your opponent has to take advantage of, or has to play onto that lane, because if she does hit, 12 power is pretty scary. Of course, you have a Alioth, who is going to be on reveal priority demon. It completely destroys your opponent's turn 6 play if your opponent played cards on this location. It's kind of the fun police. I know a lot of people don't like Alioth, but in a control list, of course, you're going to be seeing a lot of Alioth anyways. So, of course, you're playing around this deck to have priority on turn 6 as one of your main lines, just so you can Alioth and win your locations, because the other 2 are going to be locked down with a Professor X or a Storm. So your opponent can only play one location, and if you have priority with the Alioth, more often than not, you're just going to win. Dr. Doom is another one of these fantastic cards. It's a great hit for Iron Lad, allowing you to get your Doom bots out early. 15 power on turn 6 is really solid, and it's spread out, so you have some horizontal power too. It's another fantastic card for Miss Marvel if you're unable to get into some of these locations, and you have a Jeff, so you at least have 2 cards there. You can get that buff with Miss Marvel as well. So then if you're playing Doom and you are trying to just get 2 cards on your left and your right location, it goes from a 6-15 because your other 2 Doom bots to a 6-25 with the Miss Marvel interaction too. Another just fantastic card to have in this list. If you're trying to control lanes or you're unable to get into lanes, Dr. Doom is another just great card. And now let's hop into some gameplay. Alrighty, we are heading into game number 1 with this amazing W list. Let's see what we can do over here. We got a decent starting hand. We have our control aspect. We have Iron Lad. We have Doom. We have Storm. We don't have any small cards to be able to play on this turn 1 and turn 2 situation. But I think I like what we're working through. We got Throne Room, which is also pretty solid for some of these bigger cards. Our curve right here is not great, but our opponent still hasn't played any cards by turn 3. Let's see if we can kind of do something over here. We do have Storm. We could play on this location, so our opponent really can't move stuff. So I like that. Mariah Hill. Okay. It's Marie Hill, not Mariah Hill, by the way. Okay. Let's see what we can hit here. honestly, if we do Nebula Star-Lord, we can do an Iron Lad to potentially get like a Miss Marvel or something here. We got a lot of cards we can kind of hit here. Coal Obsidian's kind of scary.
Got him.
But if they don't play a Vision or anything, Iron Lad actually does really well for us. So I like what we're working with here. The Coal Obsidian is a little interesting. I think they're playing some sort of like zoo list, if I were not mistaken. The Nebula value, Blue Marvel. I do get the double power here with Iron Lad, and we get the Miss Marvel. So, in all seriousness here, if we're not facing a Shang-Chi, or if we're not facing an Ultron, we could get some crazy value. I'm thinking holistically, we might go and just do a Miss Marvel and Daredevil here. So we could get the interaction here for Iron Lad. If Iron Lad does get Shang-Chi, we do kind of have an issue. We could just Alioth Middle. Alioth Middle would save us from that. If they play like a Khazar on the left, we still beat Khazar. If they play an Ultron Middle, we would beat Ultron. So I think we just Alioth Middle. Okay, or they just retreat. Yeah, we have so much power, honestly, with the Iron Lad there. So Nebula just goes up. They don't have another way to get into that lane. So that was really solid. Let's go. All right, head into game number 2 over here. That first game, even though we didn't draw all of our cards on curve, we still were able to pull it out because we just got the right cards there in the end. And there really wasn't much they could do because an Alioth right down Main Street, it's gonna kind of be a little scary. So I understand. I understand the retreat there. In this situation, I kind of want to have my Jeff on an alternate lane I can just play around with here. I know Starlight Citadel is going to move some of this stuff, but I think this is actually going to be pretty saucy for us here. Ravonna. Okay. What do we got over here? Do you get White Hot Room? We play Juggernaut here, so kind of maximize us potentially locking this down. Don't really want our opponents to get the extra energy, especially if that's like a magic or something. Debris, pretty decent for us. If this is Professor X, even better. So we're gonna get the max energy here. We are kind of locked in. We just need this to be Professor X or Storm. Star-Lord's pretty huge, as long as, like, especially if they can't move a card there.
Got him.
Really good. Hood and Jeff. Okay. We're still messing around with some good stuff here. I think we are going to Gamora middle and Star-Lord left, so we can have some priority to mess with here, and we should hit one of these two at least one of these two. If they don't play on our Nebula as well, we're looking extra spicy. Extra spicy. We might get hit with like a cannonball or something. But I think our tempo here is looking pretty good.
Got him.
Sentry, Demon, so we still have priority. I can just Alioth middle and Storm left. Only thing I die to is Shang-Chi on the right, which we still beat. Actually, Shang-Chi on the right. He could Annie and Cannonball. He can't do both, so Alioth middle is our safest option. Or actually, yeah, and we want to leave some spots open here in case something does get hit with a Cannonball. So yeah, I was about to say, we have so much tempo here. And with the priority, since we play Gamora middle instead of Star-Lord middle, we're in such a good spot. Really good spot. All right, we are headed into game number 3. Another situation where you just have so much control in the game. Granted, you're playing a control list. So your cube rate isn't necessarily going to be crazy with this. It's always like snapping when you know you're going to be able to lock your opponent out of a lane, and then they have to deal with one of your later interactions. So that's the best way you can get totally like maximize your 2 cubes here. But I mean, one cube after a while does add up. But of course, like if your opponent's locked out of a lane and they know they can't do anything, they're just going to retreat. Nico with the destroy spell. Okay. This is going to be interesting. I think they play middle. So, and I just kind of want to have some power spread out here, especially if it is like a Wolverine Deadpool, or if it's like a Deadpool Wolverine. Have some sort of Killmonger. Okay. That's kind of interesting. I guess they don't have any destroy cards at the moment. Heard. This plus energy here. I kind of want to lock down a lane. Just go ahead and do that. Oh, we locked it down perfectly. X23, Wolverine, Carnage. And if they both go right, go to the right.
Enough said, bub.
And then let's see what we got over here. What are we working with? They got 6 energy. They're just going to play death. Totally fine. I'm going to do that. This. And then we're going to snap because we're going to have priority going into this next turn.
Snap.
And then if I just hit a Juggernaut the right way, we should be good. Yep. Perfect. Perfect. Victory. And see, that's one of those situations. Like, you're going to snap on that because you're going to have priority on the next turn. They're not going to be able to get into this lane because we can just Alioth down the middle. We're looking good. See? But, like, you got to snap knowing you have your control beforehand. All right. We are heading into our next game, my friends. That was another instance of, like, when you're playing in control is snapping when you know you're in control. You got GGs. Do we know this? Do I know this person? Maybe. Let's see what we can do over here. Let's see what we can do over here. They're farming boosters, but so hopefully we can get some tempo. We do get our Daredevil in a good spot. They're playing Thanos. I hadn't actually looked at their cards over here. Kind of on me. Let's see. What are we messing around with here? Los Diablos. I kind of want to play Nebula here. And just see what I can hit with Iron Lad. Space Stone and Time Stone. Okay, well they got some craziness going on, that's for sure. They got a pretty good curve. They got a pretty freaking good curve. If I can storm here, honestly, let me Iron Lad here. I think Iron Lad's probably better value. Storm would be locking something off for turn 6, but I don't think I necessarily maximize here. I think they would play something like a Cole somewhere. Star-Lord, a Tomba. What are they playing over here on the left? Because if they don't play anything middle, I'm just going to Professor X the right, and then I ally final turn. That is what we are looking at here. Okay. Hope and Power Stone. So I can do this and that, and if we can get them both on the right, we're looking really good. Really, really, really good. Or if we get them both on the left, honestly, really solid too.
Got him.
Both on the right would be preferred, though. Oh, let's go, baby. Perfect. Perfect. And then we just Alioth up the middle, and we win. So we just do that. And it's GG. Did they not get the plus energy because we moved them? Oh, because Juggernaut moved Hope and Power Stone, they don't get the extra energy. Oh my goodness. Okay. Interesting. Very, very interesting there. And they probably retreat. Yep. See, like that's just another instance where it's like probably would have been better for me to snap into that. But I didn't know the Juggernaut interaction made it so Hope Summers doesn't happen. So that is good to know. And we'll adapt them back. Cool. Thank you guys so much for watching the video today. I really appreciate it. If you guys could like, comment, and subscribe if you're new, I would be greatly appreciate that. As always, I hope you guys have a good one. And Tucker out.